welcome to She the Mighty, where we train, finance, and mentor female entrepreneurs. I'm Michelle Smith,
And I'm Kylie Martin.
and this is What Do You Want to Talk About? Today, we are going to dive into a fascinating topic, and we are going to talk about beliefs and how much of an impact they have on our performance and the way that we move in the world, not only as people, but as women, and particularly as entrepreneurs. And so these are things that we believe about ourselves that are really positive. They're also things that we believe about ourselves that might not be so positive. And so, Kylie, how does this show up in your life?
Well, I mean, beliefs are it's such a strong way of explaining, like, I think where we come from as human beings. Like, we have belief of self, we have belief of other, we have a belief of the world, we have a belief of so many things going on always at once. And so those beliefs are usually born out of what we've been taught, what we've maybe been told, where we come from, the things that happened to us when we were quite young. And the cool thing about beliefs to me is that they can change. And I think it's important that they do change over time. And then there's certain beliefs that never change, that never falter. So for me, it's been a little bit of both. I also think right now in 2025, we really need to be conscious about the things that we believe based on this time we're entering of information overload, questioning whether something is real or not, our ability to do that, our ability to have a critical mind. So I feel like right now, for me in this time, my own belief systems are actually shaping a little bit and changing a little bit. And I love changing my mind. I love having a belief and then being like, oh, something just happened to me, or a conversation just happened to me, or I witnessed something, and now I'm slightly unsure. And so now I'm going to study. It's almost like it's a study for me in, okay, what are the right questions to ask? What are the right things to know? And also for me, beliefs are very much an internal feeling, as opposed to something that I might be told. It's how I feel about a certain thing or situation or thought, or um it comes from within me first, and then I uphold it to the outside world, if that makes any sense of what I just said. It's very complicated, I think, for people, because it really does depend too on where you come from, and even culturally, where were you born, how did you grow up. They're very it's a really important aspect of one's life to look at. So I love that we're having this conversations on, like, what are beliefs, what do they look like, what do they feel like, and when should you change them. So I would ask you the same question. What is it, how does it show up for you, what does it mean?
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, it is such a powerful, rooted, foundational, fundamental component of how we human and who we believe ourselves to be, the way that we give ourselves permission to show up in the world, the way that we prevent ourselves from taking action and taking steps in the world. I have memories way back to the time of childhood when I felt really confident in myself, and then times when I felt unsure of myself, and how that modified my behavior. So I started to do some research into beliefs, and this happened based on some early experiences I had during business. I was a brand new entrepreneur. I was working to learn how to run a business. I was working to learn how to be a leader for the first time and navigate being a leader with people that were not only older than me, but that did have different levels of experience than me and different verticals of the business. And part of what I had to undertake was learning how to do the books and the accounting and all of these things. And I was fortunate to have a accountant that I was working with. And when we sat down to take a look at the monthly report, etc., I made a comment that said, okay, I understand, but can you just handle this for me and just send it to me, and then I can take a look at it and sign off on it and we can move on. And he put pressure on me and said, why do you want me to do that? Like, let me just ask you that, because I'm not sensing that this is because it's something you enjoy. And I said, no, I said, I'm asking you to do this because I can't do math. I'm just not good at it. I went through this whatever program when I was in grade school, and they skipped us through a couple of grades, and we were put into this accelerated learning program, and it messed all of us up, and it skipped me an entire year in school, and I lost confidence, and because of that I dropped out of math the second that I could, barely passing. And then because of that I dropped out of sciences, because to continue I would have needed to continue in math. And so by the very, very mature age of 14 years old, little Michelle was making decisions about her future and her life based upon this belief that I'm not smart enough to do math. And I eliminated any potential career through a traditional schooling road that had anything to do with science or math, right out of my realm of possibility. And so I didn't tell him all of those things at the time. He said to me, "You're very smart, you're very capable, and I don't accept that. You need to figure out why you think you can't do math, and you need to go and take a look at that, and then let's have another meeting next month, but I think you need to be involved." So I think the story is really powerful, and it had a wallop of an impact in my life. I don't believe that I ever would have pursued investigating our belief systems and the way that we form them, and then the way that we have navigational ability to adapt them, unless this exact experience had happened. You know, I totally identify with limiting beliefs as a kid and growing up in insecurities. I'm sure you do too, right?
Mhm.
Throughout schooling, when you were younger, there was moments in time when you felt really good, and then that crazy haircut and whatever, high school, and then you lose the confidence, right? Like that's something you can relate to. Yeah. Okay. So Kylie's
Yeah,
nodding for
yeah,
anybody
and
who's
I'm yeah.
listening.
I'm just no, I'm just like you know, you're reminding me that they're as thick as a wall sometimes, right? And
Yeah,
it can be in one moment someone says something to us, or one
that's
moment
right.
someone, especially when we're young. I'm thinking of you as a 14-year-old girl having that experience. I can totally relate. And I think it's important as adults now to look at the fact that we're young, and so if we're young people that are lucky enough to have lots of people around us that uphold us and believe in us and shower us with love, we have a bit of a better chance. But it just takes that one mean teacher, or that one kid on the playground, or that one thing that lands inside of our hearts to go like, oh my gosh, they're right. And then
Yeah.
that belief in itself holds strong.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 1,000,000%. And so I think that this is part of the investigation process that all of us as adults can benefit so exponentially from taking a look at some of these things, because absolutely right. So this experience started for me back earlier than that. I was 11 years old when we first started to navigate into a more streamlined, up-leveled mathematics program, which skipped us a whole grade. So the confirmation experience happened for me daily in class, when I would sit in class and the teacher for the first time would be talking about a concept that was totally over my head, because we hadn't spent an entire year learning the formative concepts that would have bridged us to get to complex algebra after long division. And so every single time this happened, I would hear this voice in my head that said, "I don't get it." And so I started to build this belief about myself at that young age that said, "I don't get it. I don't get math."
Yeah,
And
and
then
guess what happens when you say that to yourself? You
well,
don't
right.
try.
Well,
You don't even you don't go forward at all. You just go, I don't understand this.
that's right.
Right?
That's right. And so researching beliefs as an adult when this experience happened caused me to find some incredible tools that had been previously described by other researchers. And one of them was that a tool to look at your beliefs as though every single belief that we have in our life is like a tabletop that is supported by a number of legs.
Hmm.
And those legs are strong or weak, and they have varying numbers of support. As I was a child, I started to build these beliefs that were, I can't do math, I'm not smart enough. And then, in order to build a belief to survive this experience for the first time, I built an additional belief right beside it that said, and I don't care.
Right. Because
Right.
God forbid I try to maybe be okay at math and I fail.
Because that experience was too overwhelming for me.
Mhm.
It was too much of a failure experience. Fine. So then as an adult, I had the opportunity to look at that belief and go, okay, belief, are you really accurate? Or were you built off of evidence that was collected by an unskilled belief building 11, 12-year old at the
Child. Yeah.
time?
Yeah.
Right. And that I did collect evidence that was repetitively saying that I wasn't capable and was building the I can't story in my mind. And as an adult, I had the opportunity to take a look at that and say, okay, let's fact check this for a
Mhm.
moment.
Mhm.
Is that valid? Were the experiences that are absolutely undebatable in conclusion? Or is there some difficulty in the science that went into this? And to then simply build a new belief with new information that disproves the old one and now allows me to operate as an adult that no longer feels like when somebody says multiply 2 plus 2 and my brain freezes because I no
Yeah.
longer have that,
Yes.
right? That
Or you're
prison that exists.
intimidated by even the prospect. And I mean, if you think about how, as humans, a lot of us are fearful or very avoidant of change, right? Like this idea that, and what's so funny about that illusion, and the illusion also of some of these beliefs you're talking about, like a illusion of that it's true or not, and when you actually are consciously facing something and saying, "Wait a minute, is this true?" I do think that, you know, nothing stays the same ever. Things are constantly evolving, changing, and so too. Then, how do the beliefs stand alone in that truth? If everything is, if we are fluid as humans and we're constantly changing and evolving, and things around us are changing, why should the beliefs not have the same experience?
Right. And for us to be able to give permission to them to be malleable, to be beliefs that are allowed to have flex, and to give ourselves permission to then become the programmer of those beliefs. Right?
Yeah,
That we have the authority.
we we
We're not the subject, right? They're not things that are being imposed on us from others. And I think that that is true for a period of time when we are at the whim of other people's approval in order to help build our self concept and self esteem. And I believe that that is an accurate fact for most of us through periods of time in our lives, specifically when we're young. But that there is an absolute truth that as an adult, to get to a point where you do approve because you're making intelligent decisions about the way that you conduct yourself. You understand things like your values. You operate within a certain moral playground, right? You do certain things in order to human the way that you want to human, so that now, whether or not you need to send out a bid of permission or approval to anyone else has zero bearing on the self concept that you have constructed for yourself, because you've actually, been the person at the controls of that construction machine. And so the same thing is to be able to be an active programmer in the beliefs that we feel about ourselves and believe about ourselves to be true today. And I love this conversation in the world of entrepreneurship because of the number of things that you experience and do, to your point on change and how the world is ever evolving. That means that as a business owner, you need to be consistently pivoting. You need to consistently be testing. You need to consistently be looking at your results, being able to be adaptive, being able to say what worked 2 years ago is no longer going to work today, and to not have that create a negative impact on your innovation ideas, and instead be able to allow it to simply edit out what those conclusions are going to be, have them be able to be different, but not take things in as a failure if it's simply something you need to make an adaptation to or an adjustment to. And in the world of entrepreneurship, I believe this is a practice that we need to all engage in like a muscle and work out all the time, so that we don't see people setting themselves up with defeating beliefs because one or two things stopped working that used to work, or the tries that they've done didn't necessarily work correctly, when the right answer can be a couple of tries down the road.
I think the other piece to add to all of that is that we also have to be looking at ourselves constantly within the framework of everything you just said. It's not
Hmm.
it can't be an outward job. We
Mm.
have got to look at ourselves and our, I love the table analogy, but for me in my brain, it's a folding table. Like it pops up and it goes down and it pops right. Like, and I think Malcolm Gladwell said it. Your mind is for changing. Like your mind is for questioning what it is you do believe and change it. And it's okay. I think people get really headstrong on like, I believe this and
Mm.
you believe that. And so we can't be friends or, whereas that's not the real world and that's not true. And
Mm.
so,
Mhm.
I think that it's such a rich conversation that we could have probably like five different chapters on because it stems from, I think it's an individual sport, to that it's a collective sport
Mm.
always.
Mhm.
And there's
Yeah.
a flow. There is a flow to that premise. There is a feedback loop always happening for us because I know lots of people who don't believe what I believe, and
Oh.
that's perfectly okay.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not threatened at all by that.
Oh, no, no, me neither, and I'm actually grateful because that there's a lot of things other people believe that I don't believe, you know,
Correct.
and I like the contribution that it's different for everyone, and the visualization of what those tables look like are different for everyone, and that's so okay.
Mm.
Because in you saying that makes me reflect that I think I have a more aggressive relationship with the tabletops because when I yank legs out from old ones and stick them under new ones, then I light them on fire so that they no longer exist. You know, there's some therapeutic energy that I can extract from doing that mental exercise of
Great. I think it's
torching,
I think it's really
an old
cool.
belief.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's
super
really,
cool.
really cool.
Yeah,
I love the analogy. I really do. And more to think about. But we're complicated beings, and I think the very reason why we have systems of belief is because we got programmed as young people. Like if you
we
think about it
did.
that way, right?
Right. And at some point in our lives, it's up to us to take over the programmer
Yep.
role.
Yep.
Right. It's our
Yep.
exclusive duty. So,
And we
you know,
can, and we should. Right? Like that's the other piece of it. That's why talking about this is so much fun because I think unless people are really, unless they're aware, they probably don't question some of those beliefs ever.
yeah. And like the last question that I kind of want to leave this part of the conversation with is that there's a certain amount of bravery that is required to be able to champion certain beliefs about ourselves. And that's a whole other dichotomy to take a look at, that whether we give ourselves permission to believe some things that are really great about ourselves or not. But even just this one thought, like, what if we were all brave enough to believe in ourselves as women?
Hmm.
As imperfect, I'm going to take it on, get out of my way, here I come world. If we were all brave enough to believe in ourselves, then what would we have the capacity to affect? Yeah.
Oh,
So,
I can feel the energy of that question right now in my like cells, and
mm,
we would take over we would take over the world, right? Like that's just that there would be zero question. Um, and I do that's why our community is so necessary because we are making strides where that's concerned because we meet women who are fabulous and they go like I don't like I'm not okay in this area, or I have doubts in this area, and you understand it and you come at it with grace, and but also we're starting to see women build themselves up in different ways, and if every
differently.
woman was courageous and didn't have limiting beliefs, like just wow, what could happen.
Yeah, I know, I agree. I love hearing at the end of or after any type of conversation that we've had, somebody say, that call just changed my week. Or I would love to be able to dial in every single morning and get a little tiny pick me up snack like this. So, wow, we all have to inject that into our lives somehow. And I'm really excited on a future episode for us to talk about the very specific things that people can do when it comes to the exact steps to take to deconstruct old beliefs or limiting beliefs that you no longer want to have as accurate in your life, and then the exact steps to take to construct new, unwavering ones, and how to do that so that you are taking over the reins as the programmer in your own life. And until then, thank you so much for being a part of our audience and our show today. Thank you so much for listening.
I can't wait for that next conversation, and we can't wait to see you again soon.